Have you noticed any differences when it comes to embracing authenticity and being your authentic self when it comes to men and women? We often have women leaders who will come and say, well, we would like to be our authentic self, but the environment that we are in doesn't allow us to do that. Rising through the ranks very often becomes adopting a particular prototype of a leader and becoming that leader rather than being yourself. So I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your observations on women leaders embracing authenticity as they're rising through the ranks.
I've had the privilege of, in some of the programs we've taught, working with the senior women and then working with the next group. And it's very clear that one of the challenges that women face is that if a guy gets up in front of a room and tells a really compelling life story, ends up crying at the end of it, everyone is like, oh my gosh, this person cried. And it's like amazing. When I have a CEO and he cries, it's like the whole room, and then you hear it all through the organization. It's not the same if a woman does it. Actually, in some ways, you get a very different response. So it makes it much more complicated as to what's that expression of. Actually, in some ways, it takes more courage to not listen to this some of people's perception and hold on to the mastery of who you are. There's wonderful research that Harvard Business School did on women making it to the top. And one of the key things that helps them make it to the top is clarity of purpose, so that they don't listen to everybody else's story about who they should be. Many of the women, senior women that I'm working with, the thing that makes the biggest difference is they as a group getting together and supporting each other, which is the opposite of how most women feel in organizations. Most women feel like the other women are even more competitive with them than the men are. But at some point you realize that you truly do need each other in a different way. And I think the challenge we have is most of our organizations are still very much stuck in a model that is mostly on a masculine orientation. So the challenge of authenticity requires even more courage. And I would say the good news is, for everybody listening, is we all want to make a real difference in the world. And I believe that the women currently in the workplace are going to determine what their kids are going to walk into in a way that the men will not. So the question is, what role do you want to play?
Indeed. Indeed. Although talking about that bit about, the CEO crying and it being hurt, right? I have heard men talk about the fact that whereas, women crying could be seen as a sign of weakness, and indeed when Hillary cried on the campaign trail, there was this big thing of, can she really be a leader and all of that. But somewhere I've also heard men talk about the fact that, sign of weakness or not, at least women can cry in the workplace. Men, even if they wanted to, don't really have that option because, again, it's about, conforming to this prototype and coming up as behaving in a particular way to send a signal about, you're in control and, you have it all together, so to speak. So it sounds to me that whereas, women have their challenges, it's not like there are not challenges for men as well.